The only person you should try to be better than is the person you were yesterday. Here is the picture of the author Frederick Forsyth, who was born on 25th August 1938 in Ashford, Kent, England. He was educated at Tonbridge School and later joined the University of Granada in Spain. He joined the RAF and became a jet fighter pilot. He became a journalist and joined the BBC in 1965, where he served as an assistant diplomatic correspondent.
A very good morning to all the students. The second part of the lesson, two stories about flying, The Black Aeroplane by Frederick Forsyth. In this chapter, there is a man who is a pilot. He is also the narrator of the lesson, who is very eager to meet his family and have a good breakfast with them. Now, he takes the wrong decision of facing the storm instead of doing the right thing on the way. Miraculously, he somehow manages to escape with the help of a mysterious aeroplane. Here is a pilot who feels very happy to fly over a city that is sleeping. He is actually flying from Paris to London. While taking his flight, he dreams about the long holiday with the family, having a good breakfast after a long time. But as soon as he crosses Paris, a sign of the upcoming storm is on the way. The right decision for him to turn back and go back to Paris for the sake of safety. But he, being overshadowed by his dreams of having a long vacation with his family and having a good breakfast, what he did is he took the risk of going through the storm into the storm and head straight. Everything gets dark, and in middle of the flying he is unable to see anything. All his direction instruments had stopped functioning and he lost control of the plane. When all hope was lost, he saw another plane willing to rescue him. Now, the author was panicking as there was very less amount of fuel left in his plane. The anonymous pilot in the other plane guided him out of the storm and disappeared as soon as they saw light. This was really mysterious thing. Upon landing, the narrator asked the lady in the control room about the other pilot. He is left in total shock. Why? Because she replied that his was the only plane in the sky. The moon was coming up in the east behind me, and stars were shining in the clear sky above me. There wasn't a cloud in the sky. I was happy to be alone, high up above the sleeping countryside. I was flying my old Dakota airplane over France back to England. I was dreaming of my holiday and looking forward to being with my family. I looked at my watch, 1:30 in the morning. I should call Paris Control soon, I thought, as I looked down past the nose of the aeroplane. I saw the lights of a big city in front of me. I switched on the radio and said, Paris Control, Dakota DS-088 here. Can you hear me? I am on my way to England. Over. So it was the night time when the sky was clear and the stars could be seen twinkling. The pilot, who is also the narrator of the lesson, is at peace in being above a country that has fallen asleep. And he was flying over France to England. It was 1:30 in the morning and he was fantasizing about holidaying with his family. When the aeroplane was in France, the pilot thought of informing the Paris control personnel about its presence and for instructions. So he informed the control agency, to which they replied further instructions to him. The control room at Paris instructed him to turn 12 degrees towards the west. The voice from the radio answered, Immediately, DS-088, I can hear you. You ought to turn 12 degrees west now. DS-088, over. So here, the control room at Paris instructed him to turn 12 degrees the west. I checked the map and the compass, switched over to my second and the last fuel tank and turned the Dakota 12 degrees west towards England. I'll be in time for breakfast, I thought. A good big English breakfast. Everything was going well. It was an easy flight. So after receiving the instructions, the pilot geared up and followed them while putting the last fuel tank into operation. But in middle of this, all the time he was dreaming about having a good time with his family, spending his time with his family, and then he also started thinking about the breakfast, about the satisfactory breakfast at the destination point. He was calm, he was happy, because everything was going as planned and was totally well. Paris was about 150 kilometers behind me when I saw the clouds. Storm clouds. They were huge. They looked like black mountains standing in front of me across the sky. I knew I could not fly up and over them, and I did not have enough fuel to fly around them to the north or south. I ought to go back to Paris, I thought, but I wanted to get home. I wanted that breakfast. I will take the risk, I thought, and flew that old Dakota straight into the storm. Now the plane had crossed Paris when he started seeing clouds in the sky. The presence of clouds made him unsafe to travel by air because there were chances of a storm. And there were black mountains all around. It was black totally. So the narrator compared the black clouds it was so dark, it was so black that he compared the clouds with the dark mountains. He knew he couldn't pass them, as it was impossible to go above them or escape them with the amount of fuel that was left in the last tank. So the right decision was to be made, like going back to the Paris, but he got stuck in between because he desperately wanted to be with his family. He had even dreamed of spending a good time, having a good breakfast with his family. So he thought of taking the risk. Inside the clouds, everything was suddenly black. It was impossible to see anything outside the aeroplane. The old aeroplane jumped and twisted in the air. I looked at the compass. I couldn't believe. I couldn't believe my eyes. The compass was turning round and round. It was dead. I would not work. It would not work. The other instruments were suddenly dead too. I tried the radio. Paris control? Paris control? Can you hear me? There was no answer. The radio was dead too. I had no radio, no compass, and I could not see where I was. I was lost in the storm. Then, in the black clouds quite near me, I saw another aeroplane. It had no lights on its wings, but I could see it flying next to me through the storm. I could see the pilot's face turned towards me. I was very glad to see another person. He lifted one hand and waved. Follow me, he was saying, follow me. He knows that I am lost, I thought. He's trying to help me. It was so dark because of the storm that nothing was visible outside the plane. Now he started losing control of the plane. The compass and other instruments had also stopped working because of the bad weather. He became helpless. He tried calling the Paris Control Agency, who had helped him earlier but couldn't connect because of the network issues, because of the weather. When everything failed, he saw a ray of hope when he saw another aeroplane. He felt relieved when he saw another pilot's face and willingness to help him escape the storm. He thought to himself that the other pilot is very kind, as he knew that they were lost and was trying to help him. He turned the aeroplane slowly to the north in front of my old Dakota so that it would be easier for me to follow him. I was very happy to go behind the strange aeroplane like an obedient child. After half an hour, the strange black aeroplane was still there in front of me in the clouds. Now, there was only enough fuel in the old Dakota's last tank to fly for 5 or 10 minutes more. I was starting to feel frightened again, but then he started to go down and I followed through the storm. Suddenly, I came out of the clouds and saw 2 long straight lines of light in front of me. It was a runway, an airport. I was safe. I turned to look for my friend in the black aeroplane, but the sky was empty. There was nothing there. The black aeroplane was gone. I could not see it anywhere. So the other pilot took his plane ahead of the lost aeroplane to make it easier for them to follow, while the author followed him like an obedient child. So he compared himself here with an obedient child. Who's called an obedient child? A child is said to be an obedient when he or she follows the instructions given by an elder or a teacher properly. He was also panicking because there was very less amount of fuel left. Only 5 or 10 minutes to go, to fly. It was only then he started coming out of the storm and could see the runway to land his plane safely. When he turned back to see the other pilot, he realized that the plane that helped him was nowhere to be seen. It had disappeared. The author did not know where he had landed, but was not afraid of leaving his plane unattended. I landed and was not sorry to walk away from the old Dakota near the control tower. I went and asked a woman in the control center where I was and who the other pilot was. I wanted to say thank you. She looked at me very strangely and then laughed. Another aeroplane? Up there in this storm? No other aeroplanes were flying tonight. Yours was the only one I could see on the radar. So, who helped me to arrive there safely without a compass or a radio and without any more fuel in my tanks? Who was the pilot on the strange black aeroplane flying in the storm without lights? So, after landing, he headed directly towards the control room to ask about the other pilot. And to his utmost surprise, when he heard the lady who was sitting there at the desk, she informed that there was no other plane in the sky except his because of the bad weather. When he hears this, he's really shocked. He's left astonished with a lot of questions in his mind. These are the questions. The first question that comes to his mind is, who helped me to arrive there safely without a compass or a radio and without any more fuel in my tanks? Who was there to help him? Who was the pilot on that strange black aeroplane flying in the storm, and that too without lights? So this was the summary of the second part of the lesson, the black aeroplane. It is a very mysterious experience. During his flight from Paris to London, he was lost amid mountains of dark clouds. He couldn't believe his eyes. The compass was dead. It would not work. He received no answer from Paris control either. He could see another aeroplane flying next to him through the storm. He followed the strange aeroplane until he could see the runway and was safe. And when he asked at the last about the other aeroplane, about the other pilot, he was left with n number of questions when he heard the lady at the desk when she informed that there was no other plane in the sky due to bad weather. So the message of this lesson, the black aeroplane, could be like there may be difficult situations in your life, but you never know who comes on your way to rescue you, to save you. Here you can see that the narrator was really in a helpless situation. He lost control with the Paris control, and all his instruments, all the compass were dead. Then came the mysterious aeroplane to guide him. So, the message is never say die. Having faith in oneself is more important to move forward in life. We should never ever lose our hope in trouble. We should keep fighting. We should have that courage, have confidence, have faith in oneself. And you must have remembered that God helped those who help themselves. So never lose hope, even if you face such difficult situation. Go for it, fight for it, and earn it.